Hey there, deep divers. Ready to explore some strategies for finding a little more peace in our wonderfully chaotic world?
Sounds like a plan.
We're taking a deep dive into Richard Carlson's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's all small stuff.
A classic.
Whether you're a seasoned self-help enthusiast or just starting to explore these ideas, Carlson's book offers some really practical wisdom for creating a calmer, more peaceful life.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is that it's not about life being perfect because, let's be real, it never will be.
Right.
It's about recognizing we all have those ingrained habits of reacting to life's little curveballs. This book helps us change how we react to those inevitable bumps in the road and consciously choose a more peaceful response.
And Carlson actually lives this philosophy, which he illustrates perfectly with a story about getting an endorsement for his book. He'd asked the one and only Wayne Dyer, but after no response, he moved on.
Ouch.
And surprise, the publisher slaps an old quote on the cover anyway.
No way. What
Yeah.
did it say?
Richard, there are two rules for living in harmony. #1, don't sweat the small stuff, and #2, it's all small stuff. Let the quote stand. Love, Wayne. Can you imagine receiving that message?
Oh my God.
I think I would have panicked.
For sure.
But Carlson writes Dyer a heartfelt apology, which just shows you how committed he was to his own message.
It's a great example of how sometimes our reactions generate more stress than the actual situation.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole sweating the small stuff thing.
Huh.
Carlson uses the example of someone cutting you off in traffic. It's easy to let your blood pressure skyrocket.
Right. And what's happening is that we get caught in what he calls the mental snowball effect. One negative thought snowballs into a massive avalanche of doom if we let it.
It's like our brains are wired to focus on the negative. But Carlson shows us how to break free from that cycle. He suggests that instead of fuming, we can acknowledge the situation and practice a little compassion. Maybe that person's having a terrible day, or is just a truly terrible driver. Either way, we can choose to let it go and move on with our day.
That's the power of perspective. He gives another example of waking up at 3 a.m. and suddenly remembering that email you forgot to send.
I've been there. Suddenly, you're not just stressing about the email. You're mentally running through your entire to-do list, imagining all the ways your day could go wrong.
Exactly. Carlson emphasizes the importance of catching these thought spirals early. The sooner you recognize the snowball, the easier it is to choose a different thought and let it melt away.
This reminds me of another one of his chapters that really struck me. Remind yourself that when you die, your in-basket won't be empty.
Wow.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Oh,
He's reminding us to prioritize well-being over a never-ending to-do list.
it's like that saying, they don't put, I wish I'd worked more on tombstones. It's a powerful reminder to enjoy our lives now.
For sure. But seriously, imagining my actual in-basket, never empty, even in death. It makes you rethink those late nights, you know?
It really puts things in perspective. This actually ties into Carlson's emphasis on compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves too.
So how do we cultivate this magical sense of compassion in our everyday lives? It feels like it would take a lot of work.
It doesn't have to be difficult at all. One way Carlson suggests is by simply stepping into someone else's shoes, recognizing their struggles are as real as our own, and often far worse. Think about that driver who cut you off.
Yeah.
Maybe they just found out a loved one is ill or they're racing to the hospital.
Or maybe they're just having a really bad day.
Right.
The point is, we never really know what's going on in other people's lives.
Exactly. Everyone has their own story, their own struggles, their own stuff. And recognizing that can help us to be a little more understanding, a little more forgiving.
It's a good reminder that we're not the center of everyone else's universe, and that a little understanding goes a long way. And you know what? It often makes you realize your own problems might not be so bad after all.
I love that. And that's where gratitude comes in. Carlson writes a lot about how recognizing the good in our own lives, especially when we compare ourselves to others' challenges, can be incredibly grounding.
So less sweating, more compassion, and a healthy dose of gratitude. Got it. But I have to admit, I'm ready for some actionable advice. I love that Carlson gives us a whole treasure chest of simple yet profound strategies for actually creating more peace in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. He really delivers on that.
Okay, so one that kind of made me laugh when I read it because it's so true is don't interrupt others or finish their sentences. Ouch, that one hit home. I'm definitely someone who gets excited and jumps in.
Me too.
But it makes you realize how disrespectful it can be when someone doesn't give you the space to finish your thought.
It's so true. And, when we do that, it often leads to misunderstandings and arguments because no one feels truly heard. Instead, Carlson stresses the importance of being present in the conversation, really absorbing what the other person is saying before jumping in with our own thoughts, which in our world of distractions can be tougher than it sounds.
It really can. It's like we're so worried about getting our own 2 cents in that we miss the chance to really listen and connect.
And when we make that shift to truly listening, it can have a profound effect on our relationships.
This next strategy is a tough one for type A personalities like me. Let others be right most of the time.
Huh.
At first I thought, does that mean I just sit here and smile while someone tells me the sky is green?
Ha, right.
Yeah.
It's not about sacrificing your own values or beliefs or pretending to agree when you don't. It's about choosing your battles wisely and asking yourself if proving your point in every little disagreement is really worth sacrificing your peace of mind.
That's a good question. And I can already see how letting go of that need to be right, to always get the last word in, could make relationships so much smoother. Imagine how much less stressful family dinners would be if everyone just took a deep breath and let those little disagreements slide.
Precisely. It frees up so much mental energy that you can then direct towards more important things. Carlson actually shares a great example of a couple who constantly argued about finances.
Oh, yes. Tell me about that one.
It turned out their disagreements actually stemmed from deeper insecurities. The wife was afraid of ending up like her financially unstable parents, and the husband felt this intense pressure to provide like his father had. But once they understood each other's perspectives and where those fears were coming from, their arguments just dissolved. It's like the arguing wasn't really about the money at all.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how understanding, which is rooted in compassion, can really help resolve conflict.
Okay, this next strategy is pure gold in my opinion. Ready for it.
Hit me.
When in doubt about a chore, just do it. No more passive-aggressive sticky notes on the fridge.
Love it.
It's so simple, but so smart. Because it addresses that mental burden of scorekeeping that can happen in relationships. Who did the dishes last? Whose turn is it to walk the dog?
Oh, yes.
It's exhausting. Carlson suggests we simply take action, freeing ourselves from that mental clutter of who did what.
I love that. It's like instead of waiting for someone else to step up or leaving that passive-aggressive note, you just take initiative and get it done. I love that. Less resentment, more peace of mind. Right?
It models a spirit of generosity and teamwork, which can inspire others to do the same.
This next one feels almost deceptively simple. Carlson suggests we smile at strangers, look them in the eye, and say hello.
Yes, and this isn't about being weird or anything. It's about recognizing the shared humanity in everyone we encounter. Instead of seeing strangers as just faces in the crowd, we acknowledge them as individuals worthy of kindness and respect. It's a small gesture, but it can make a big difference.
Right. I've noticed that when you smile at someone, they almost always smile back. It's like this little spark of connection that can brighten both of your days. And you never know how much someone might need that.
It's a reminder that we're all in this together. We all have our ups and downs, our joys and sorrows. And a simple smile can be a powerful way to spread a little joy and connect with others on a human level. Which leads to Carlson's larger point, that even though these strategies might seem small on their own, their cumulative effect over time can be incredibly powerful.
It's not about making one grand gesture. It's about making small, conscious choices every day to cultivate more peace in our lives.
Yeah.
Kind of like compound interest.
Exactly. Small, consistent contributions eventually lead to significant growth.
So no need to stress about becoming a Zen master overnight.
Not at all. We've all got plenty of time to put these ideas into practice. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Don't get discouraged if you have setbacks. Just keep practicing, keep coming back to these principles, and you'll gradually see a shift in how you experience the world.
You know, it's funny how we often resist the things that are actually good for us.
Like what?
Like being bored, for example.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, in our always-on, hyper-stimulated world, we've lost the ability to simply be. To sit still, to let our minds wander, to just exist in the present moment without needing to be entertained or productive.
We have.
Yeah. And Carlson actually encourages us to embrace boredom. He says it's like giving your mind a much-needed vacation.
He's onto something there. It's about creating space for those quiet, intuitive thoughts to bubble up. It's in those moments of stillness that we often find our greatest insights and inspiration.
It's like that feeling when you finally put your phone down and just relax. It takes a minute, but then your mind starts to wander and who knows what you'll discover. So instead of fearing boredom, we can embrace it as an opportunity for rest and renewal.
Exactly. And if we take that idea a step further, Carlson also suggests we each set aside some quiet time every day. No phones, no distractions, just pure peace and quiet to reconnect with your inner self and recharge your batteries.
And that quiet time can look different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, or even just taking a long bath.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you and making it a priority. Even just a few minutes of intentional quiet can make a world of difference in how you feel. Carlson himself is a big fan of early rising and using that quiet time before the world wakes up to set the tone for a more peaceful and productive day.
There's something really appealing about that, starting the day with intention rather than immediately getting swept up in the chaos.
It's a powerful practice. And speaking of powerful, I have to ask you about this next quote from the book. Carlson asked this incredibly thought-provoking question. If you had an hour to live and could make only one phone call, who would you call, what would you say, and why are you waiting?
Wow. That really makes you think, doesn't it? It reminds us that life is short and precious, and that we shouldn't wait to express our love and appreciation for the people who matter most.
Exactly. Why wait for a hypothetical someday when we can create those meaningful moments right now?
So true. Well, on that note, I'm feeling inspired to reach out to someone I love today and tell them how much they mean to me. And I have to say, this whole deep dive has me thinking about how I can incorporate some of these strategies into my own life, a little less sweating, a little more compassion, and a whole lot more peace.
It's been a pleasure diving into these ideas with you. And remember, it's not about achieving perfection. It's about making small, conscious choices each day to cultivate a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
So well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yeah.
Until next time, remember, it's all small stuff.